Hello, welcome. Hope you're having a great Tuesday. I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for joining me. Court is back in session with your guy, Jonathan Mathis, the sports judge. Make sure you support the channel by hitting the subscribe button. If you're watching on TikTok, please click follow for great sports content. Welcome in to Speaking with Judgment in a thrilling Game 7 showdown. The Golden State Warriors overcame the Houston Rockets 103-89 and will now move on to face the Minnesota Timberwolves. In the long run, experience won. We look at the Houston Rockets, talented team, great coach, young bodies, but they're inexperienced and their main guy, Jalen Green, only showed up for one game in the entire series where he had 38. And newcomers to the playoffs often come up shy. Experienced teams often outperform. I always have faith in a Steph Curry led team. His teams led by him never really exit the playoffs early. I can't remember the last time they didn't go very far, with the exception of their loss to the Sacramento Kings last season in the playoffs. And when you look at what they do in the postseason, they cook. But you can't help but looking at the team, at least now, and not think, okay, they're a bit undersized. They're not big enough and fast enough. Three guard lineups with an undersized big. And man, let me tell you, they have a plethora of gadget guys who are system merchants. I feel like people will bring up their one advantage to go far in these playoffs: experience. What we saw on Sunday night was their playoff and championship pedigree show up in Game 7. Sunday's game was like a reboot of a Warriors classic. That was an incredibly impressive display of pure hooping ability, mastery, and killer instinct. And like this point on, you're like, okay, they're going to make it tough for the Wolves. I'm not saying they can beat them in a 7-game series, but at least challenge them. I have no doubt in my mind that the series matchup between Golden State and Minnesota will be cinema. And I think this team, no matter how small they are, can put up a strong fight against the Wolves. You guys watch basketball. You see how important Steph Curry is as they make it past Houston. But against a very physical Minnesota team, they're going to need a bench to step up tremendously if they are to get past Ant and the Minnesota Timberwolves. And, as I see it, the big challenge for the Warriors going forward is winning in less than 7. I just don't think they're built to win 29 postseason games, even with Steph. If you look at what's happened here, over the last few months, they have improved as the season went on. I didn't expect to be sitting here today talking about the Golden State Warriors. One couldn't easily envision an alternate reality where the Warriors deliver in a big way to knock out Houston in a must-win matchup. Steph Curry, 36 years of age, and still the best shooter in the NBA. Steph was scoreless for much of the first half, and yet when they needed him to drape that superhero cape around his neck, he did. And he took over. He took over in the fourth quarter. So Steph was great in the fourth quarter. You can make the argument he changed the game. Top 5 player all time. It's debatable. I've grown to really like and appreciate Steph Curry. The enjoyable or can't miss nature of Steph Curry is unlike any we've ever seen. The man everybody marvels at is Steph Curry. Look at Steph Curry's numbers, and you'll find that over the last 4 games, he's averaged 33.5 points per game, shooting 53% from the field, 51% from three. And Buddy Hield, I did not have Buddy Hield making 9 threes. Astonishing performance by him. It was one of the most impressive things I've ever seen done by him on a basketball court. He went absolutely bananas, went off for 33 points. Buddy was their secret weapon. Buddy had a game after Steve Kerr spoke into a mic. Hey, Buddy Hield, that's your teammate. Steph Curry, pass him the ball. Buddy Hield is like, no, I'll shoot. I'm shooting in game 7. And there you have it. He has a legendary performance that will forever go down as one of the greatest individual performances in franchise history. Just a shot-making game by him. You couldn't have scripted it any better. You really couldn't have scripted that game much better than what you got on Sunday. They played at a pace you wanted. You know, Buddy has a Klay Thompson type performance, one for the ages. And while Jimmy and Steph are undeniably impactful, Buddy was the real difference maker. The entire team contributed significantly. You gotta love how Draymond Green stepped up offensively, another key aspect of the game that we can't overlook. It's like we know how significant Draymond Green is to Golden State's success. When you think about those guys and what they did defensively, they won Game 7 with strong defense. We saw what they did defensively. Defense wins games. He's going to be the main reason they win if they end up getting past the Timberwolves. Like everything, his whole approach, his whole personality annoys me. It's sort of like he thinks he's this badass. But in reality, he's the most important player on the floor. You know, the most important player on the floor for the Warriors is Draymond Green. Still the smartest, most versatile defender in the league. This team in games of this magnitude goes on the energy of Draymond Green. When you think about what he can provide defensively, he gets into you. Yes, certainly not the most likable guy, so we don't acknowledge that he's the greatest defensive player, but as we often see, he can still get in your face, a pesky defender, and we were reminded of that on Sunday. Draymond set the tone early on both ends of the floor, but defensively, his defensive presence set the tone. I know everybody wants to talk about Buddy's scoring explosion and Jimmy breathing life back into this team. But the Warriors aren't where they are now without Draymond. I thought Steve Kerr's defensive tactics and what they were doing was outstanding. They changed up some offensive things and put different players in different spots of some of their same offensive sets. It was a brilliant game plan. And of course, Steph Curry, the greatest shooter alive, saved his best for last. Steph is fun to watch. This time, it was his hustle, playmaking, and defense that impacted the game. I'm willing to concede right now that Steph Curry is in the GOAT conversation. I think we all forgot the Warriors are led by the greatest marksman the NBA has ever seen. Everything still flows from Curry. It might have been one of the best defensive efforts they got from Steph. On the defensive side of things, I thought he was locked in and was outstanding. Finally outplaying Fred VanVleet, who outplayed him in 3 straight games. That was one of the best all-around games I've ever seen him play. My biggest takeaway from Sunday's Game 7 is that these guys have experience. I think what's keeping or would keep me interested, besides the curiosity of what's going to happen in the next series versus the Wolves, Steph Curry is always a point of interest. I want to see how far he can carry this team. The Jimmy Butler trade made a major difference. It upgraded the team with talent and toughness, mental toughness. I think their team is okay, but they're not great. They're good and got a lot out of their key guys versus Houston. Solid win for the Warriors. They take care of business on the road and move on. The defense clamped down when it needed to. In this series against Houston, their confidence was tested, but it never wavered. You got to keep in mind, the Warriors have been here before, and they carried themselves like it, leading almost wire to wire in a win or go home game on the road against a young and athletic opponent. And now the Warriors will move on to play the Minnesota Timberwolves. The series starts tonight. Game 1 is tonight. Okay, folks, that's all for this video. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you all. Very, very kind of you. Before I go, please remember to like and subscribe and follow on TikTok. See you guys again very soon. You guys enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Have a wonderful day. Be safe out there. Be positive. Do great things. And we'll talk again soon. Take care.